Ladies and gentlemen.
Hey everyone, welcome back to our podcast, A Lion Among the Sheep. I'm glad to have back Jamie Baker, Coach Jamie. He was gone for the last two episodes, and we thank Aspen Meadows for jumping in here. She did a great job, very informative, a lot of great feedback. But Coach, welcome back. I'm glad you're feeling better. Look at a big smile on your face. You're back to yourself. Glad to see you, Jamie.
Hey, I appreciate it, Scott. And big shout out to Aspen. I got a chance to check out both episodes that you guys did, and you guys both did a fantastic job. And, Aspen Graves gave some great insight, shared some of her personal journey and just the tips on vulnerability, overtraining, and just her journey to having the great success that she's having and will continue to have. So big shout out to her.
Great person, great story, and she's going to be a part of this podcast as we move forward. So
Absolutely.
let's hear about your journey. You got sick, you got laryngitis, you tried to come back
Hey,
too soon, and
yeah. So I was out for the count. It kind of caught up with me the last week. Wasn't feeling my best, but as you know, you just kind of like push through.
right.
And I hit a stopping point last week. I think it was Thursday or Wednesday. I really started to feel kind of congested and, just didn't feel myself. And kind of, did the traditional vitamin C stuff and just couldn't shake it off. So a couple days later, I ended up losing my voice, being out for the count. Did a telemedicine appointment with my doctor, and she helped me start the process of recovery. So big shout out to Dr. Menendez for just always finding the right solutions to kind of make sure I stay on track. And I'm very fortunate, Scott. I typically really don't get sick. I take a lot of pride in, doing all the right things as much as possible.
Right.
Vitamin C, eating clean, healthy foods, and,
No, I know you do.
washing my hands and all the things that go along with, trying to avoid it. But sometimes these things are unavoidable, at least in my case. So I'm super happy to be back. We talked a couple of times, or I attempted to talk, man. I was really
We did.
shaky,
Yeah.
sound terrible. And so I'm really excited to get back, man, and hear all the great things that are happening in the world, and to continue to build on sharing our great insight with everybody out there.
It's funny, Coach. And it's really good to have you back. It's good to see your face and be back in action. But you actually you have kids. You have children. Your wife.
Yes.
You have it's so you have like an incubator of germs. Not because you're very clean. I know you are. You're
Uh,
tidy. But the fact is, they're out in school. They're around people. Bring
right.
their colds in, their little viruses and
Right.
bugs, and they bring them to the house. And so when you have children, it's now I live in a bubble. I have no children to live with me. I'm by myself right now, and so I don't have all those external bugs and viruses coming
Yeah.
into my. For the most part, I'm around people all day and every day, and of course I. But no, it's difficult. I remember when my family, I was coaching sports up in Pennsylvania. Oh, I always had a cold, sniffles or something. But it's funny you say that coming back, and we tend to come back too quickly, and
Mhm.
sometimes you have to take, especially like laryngitis. I had it myself, laryngitis,
Mhm.
and it's hard. I mean, that's really something that it's hard to deal with because you can't. I could not speak at all. Not at
Yeah.
all. I mean, I was like, I was at one point where I couldn't speak at all. And that is, I had to write things down. I went to my pharmacist to pick up, I'm at my doctor's writing things down. But no, but coming back too soon. And we talk like working through versus working around things. Working
Yeah.
through, sometimes you have to work around. Sometimes, I believe, and maybe I'll get your opinion, and from what
Mhm.
I've seen, that getting a little, raising your heart. I know you were in the gym. I know you were doing things. You just couldn't. It was just a congestion. I think raising your body temperature
Mhm.
helps fend off a lot of
Yeah.
diseases, a lot of germs. It helps kill them.
Right.
Have you seen studies like that as well? And I mean, that's my own experience.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I've seen studies that talk about, raising your heart rate and how that helps to um, increase some of the, I think the bottom, well, what I'll say from the studies that I've read, they talked about an increased heart rate and how it has a positive effect on all your organs, your immune system, and so forth. But I also think there's a thin line that we all kind of tote when we
Right.
are kind of on the cuffs of maybe not feeling our best. It's always that line of where you don't want to cross, where you overextend
Absolutely.
yourself, because then the other side of that is that you deplete your immune system, you weaken
Absolutely.
it, and then it makes you more susceptible to the virus becoming more of an issue, where if you maybe had not went as hard
Yeah.
or decrease your volume or your intensity, you may be able to offset it being a full blown case of not feeling your best.
And this is the working through things as opposed to working around things. So you don't want to working through people like, oh, just it's a David Goggins, just suck it up, get your ass out there, beat you. No, you're sick. I don't want to hear it. No, no. If your body's sick, it's sending you a
Yeah.
message. It's sending you a message. You need some rest. You need some downtime. You need to recover. And so, and you're right. It's overexerting yourself ends up
Right.
being more detrimental to your body than just a little bit of exercise, raising your heart rate, raising your core temperature a little bit. And I think people tend to see people who are lions or tough. No, we all get sick.
Mm.
Now it's how you confront that sickness. You just lay in
Right.
bed and do nothing. It's like with injuries, and we talked about this at one of our earlier podcasts. When people get injured, coach, I see a lot of you have two mentalities. You actually have three mentalities. You've got the Goldilocks, too much, too little, just the right amount.
Mhm.
And so some people want to get out there and push, push, push. At my age, I told you I had this issue with my hip flexor,
Uh-huh.
and I can see and it does affect my mind. It's fine. We'll talk about that. But I didn't want. I worked around it. I'm not doing crazy legs. I'm doing real light stuff because I can see when you
Hmm.
have an ailment, an injury, it could
Yeah.
compound and exacerbate into other injuries, and it can
Right.
affect. When you're weak on one side, you overcompensate on the stronger side, and that's where
Right.
that's where I find studies show that that's what happens. And people as they age if they try
Mm.
to push through it, like a lot of people you say they break a hip, they go in a nursing home, they never come out, and that's a sad thing, but that's a reality. So you have to, if you hurt, you have to work around it. You don't work through it, you don't push it. Now we have the other thought, coach, where you sit on the couch and do nothing. And that's
Mm.
absolutely not the right way. That's why it's Goldilocks. Too little, too much. You need to just do enough and work around it. Because here's what happens. And we talked about this, and I might be repeating myself. The way collagen is a basic foundation of all connective tissue. You hear these collagen drinks and stuff. Whether that works or not, there's conflicting studies. But collagen, and when you get injured, what happens to those fibers? They pop. Okay,
Hmm.
there's a fissure. Even if it's a stretch, they come up more vertical, and the more acute and more catastrophic the injury, the more vertical they come. And what the
Hmm.
collagen does, a little bit of stress, whether it's on a body part, helps rebuild these collagen fibers, and it brings them back down to parallel where they basically interlock. So a
Hmm.
little bit of stress on a physical injury is
Sure.
not a bad thing. So that's
Right.
basically. So I don't know. That's just my 2 cents for that. But I've dealt with that a lot. I've had a lot of injuries, unfortunately, in my life, and
Yeah.
pushing through is one thing. Working around
Yeah.
things another. So
Yeah, no, it's a great point. I think injuries are one of those things. It's so much where it's not if it's going to happen, it's kind of when, because any activity you do, even in moderation, at some point, if you have any imbalance or, as you mentioned, I think that's a great point that often you may have an injury that may not be something that's limit you at that moment in time, but if you continue to neglect that injury over time,
right.
you overcompensate and eventually you end up having the injury be something that sidelines you and keeping you from your overall progress. So, yeah, to your point, there's some great context that you provided about collagen and just how your body works and the importance of, proper nutrition, stretching, mobility, And then, having a sense of, when you need to maybe reduce volume, or
Yeah.
maybe time that you may go to the gym or what activity you may be doing, to reduce the amount of activity. So no, good stuff.
Yeah, and we talked about the catabolic versus anabolic state of our bodies. And the catabolic is, for those out there who don't know that, when you're in the gym tearing your muscles down, that's a catabolic state. It's ripping them apart. And that's not when you grow. You grow at rest. Your body and the recovery phase is when you get stronger, actually. I mean, you rip. So people who overtrain end up just ripping their body down. I see it. And then you're right. You touched on one thing, coach, nutrition. Nutrition is so key, and
Yeah.
people don't realize the correct percentage of macronutrients they're getting, plus the micronutrients, and and the antioxidants and other things. I mean, people just don't, and it's sad. People do not eat well like they used to. And you saw that when, I don't know if you've seen those pictures of people in the 30s, 40s. They had like 28-inch waists. Now the average
Yeah.
waist is probably closer to 40. We
Yeah.
have 70% of society is obese. It's just so nutrition, and I coach people of all age, and they come out of the garbage with Taco Bell bags, and now if you're 19, 20 years old in college, you could get away with it. But now,
Yeah.
as you age, and maybe we're starting to get there in years. Maybe you could touch on how nutrition affects you. I know you eat very clean, but maybe you could
I
just
do.
touch on like not eating clean
Yeah.
versus eating clean.
Yeah. Well, for me, my personal journey is always a battle. I think there's this misconception that, people just, you know, are capable, or they are capable, but it takes a lot of self-discipline, and it's a lot of work. I mean, I didn't get to where I'm consistently, eating the proper protein, carbs, and fat, and having the discipline to do it. It started with gradual progress, and then recognizing that, I think we all can agree, there's a saying that 80% of success you have in your fitness journey is what you eat.
Right,
The other 20% is at the gym.
right,
And the hardest part is to flip that, because most people spend 80% of the time overtraining, including myself,
yeah,
and 20% on the nutrition. And so that frustration of constantly trying but seeing no progress. And I think we all can agree, when you go work out, there's this clock we all have, and everybody's clock is different, Scott. But there's a clock that says, I should see progress when I look in the mirror after a period of time. And when you don't,
right,
because you don't have a game plan, you don't have proper nutrition, you don't have a strategy in the gym of how you're training, how often, what type of exercises you're doing, and so forth, it becomes almost, you feel as if though it doesn't matter.
right,
And so for me, I've just tried to have a balanced perspective where I got involved. For me, was a big game changer and helped me evolve, was intermittent fasting.
right,
Now,
right,
is that for everyone? I mean, there's just so many different eating plans, but that really helped me to discipline myself, to restrain myself from making poor choices. Sugar, just like for most of us, can be our Achilles heel.
right.
And I was
Absolutely.
able, through intermittent fasting, I started off doing, the 16 off, 8 on.
Hmm.
And as I got more control over the self discipline, then I became able to go off of it and not do it every day. But it was a while. So to to your point, for me, I think for anybody starting out, it's those small wins. It's not,
Absolutely. Absolutely. Absolutely.
it's not going all out and saying, I'm not going to eat anything that is unhealthy for a month. I just think those things are unrealistic. And I think for myself, I set myself up for failure. But when I can make small steps and I can say, okay, I'm not going to have, chocolate graham crackers for 1 week or
Right,
4 days,
right.
right? And then if I have a couple of cookies, am I disciplined enough not to eat the whole box, right? That's a huge win. And so those types of games that we play with ourselves to help us achieve our goal, I think they're extremely important.
And that is the psychology of winning. Okay.
Yeah.
When we have the psychology of winning, we're coaching, we set up goals. We set up a long-term goal to win, become ranked nationally. That's our long-term goal. But our this next goal is to do a squat at two and a quarter, depending on, or 250 or 300 within a couple of weeks. And he said maybe in 3 months, if your maximum squat is right now two and a quarter, let's do for in 6 months, 315.
Hmm.
Before that, you do these intermediate goals. So next week, let's try to get to the gym every day. Let's make sure we don't have any excuses, like things that are achievable. They've got to be
Yeah.
achievable. If you set the goals that are so unrealistic, you're never going to achieve them and you're going to be
Yeah.
disappointed. But I love what you talk about intermittent fasting. Am I believe what works for you works for you.
Right.
But what I think is great is how you crafted that, where that's how you started, because you needed a plan. And that is, I'm like, yes, I'm glad you mentioned that, because what happens is people, they don't know where to start. And that's a
Right.
great thing. Intermittent fasting is a great place to start. And what I believe in moderation. I count my macros.
Hmm.
So, but I wasn't always able to do that. I did intermittent fasting, and it got me disciplined. It gives you the discipline now and
Right.
the knowledge about your body, what works and what doesn't. So, because
Absolutely.
here's my problem: in that 8 hours, I would eat nonstop. Stop.
Oh
That's
wait, listen, that's the hardest part for
that's
me
the
as
hardest
well.
part. It's like,
I
okay,
think
yeah,
I eat like
I can eat
2,000
cookies.
calories when I break my fast. I
Yeah,
start out, traditionally a protein shake, and then I have salmon, and I'll have sweet potato, and then but in my brain it's all good stuff, so
right.
it's okay, but no, absolutely, I think I eat like 1,500 calories when I break my fast, and I'm still hungry after
Just
that,
hungry. I
right?
know.
So yeah,
Give
but
me
that's a
give,
great point that you
you give
made,
me something
buddy.
with no limits, I'm going no limits, buddy.
Yeah,
I'm not
yeah,
gonna go. I don't believe in limits. But here's the thing. I think as you do it longer and longer, you realize, hey, I don't need to eat through the eight
right,
hours, and you become satiated. It allows you to satiate yourself, satisfy your needs. Um, and without having to overindulge, and eventually
right,
it does. It's a psychology of winning. It changes your mind. These little goals that you say, hey, I'm losing weight. And it's a self affirmation. We talk about this. This is all through the psychology of winning. The self affirmation, like, hey, I'm feeling better. I'm better
right.
in the gym. Wow, my belt's one size less. Wow, this is
Yeah,
working. So you know what? I'm gonna do better, better, better. So it's
yeah,
this. It's reaffirming your pattern, your behaviors, your new behaviors that you have in so many
yeah,
people,
yeah.
and that is a perfect thing. It's like in a gym. And unfortunately, I'll harken back to this probably too many times. I train people. I use a local gym, a commercial gym,
Hmm.
to train some of my athletes. And unfortunately, I see people in there who are there for twice as long as my clients are there, and they get no results. I see them every day doing the same thing. And again, they need to have a coach. It doesn't have to be a lifelong coach, but they need a plan, because they don't have the discipline. And people sit down here, you see things on TikTok and Instagram. This is a
Right.
way to do it. That's TikTok and Instagram. You know,
Yeah.
and they're out there to sell things. They're out there to sell a quick
Right.
fix. It's not a quick fix, but if you have a
Right.
plan, a concrete plan that works from somebody who has past experience in this and has proven a methodology, it
Yeah.
works. But they should
Yeah.
just pay someone and get the plan. And you don't need it forever. Just get the plan. Understand. Then
Yeah.
we get the discipline. You go, oh, I know how to do it. This is what the coach says. Or intermittently get a coach. I don't know. But I agree. You have to start. You have to start with the knowledge is key.
Yeah.
Without knowledge, we're nothing really. Um,
Absolutely.
but
Yeah. Yeah.
I just think but that the intermittent fasting really, because I did, I guess I did do that, and it's not
Hmm.
that I had success with it, but then I got into my diet, I got into what
Right.
works and what
Right.
doesn't work for me. I'm
Yeah.
like, okay, I feel, and here's the thing: we talked about the body, the glucose, the
Right.
brain, and
Right.
for me, in my job. When I was practicing law as well, I needed to have. I'm not saying you don't, but without that glucose in my brain, I didn't have.
Right.
It taxed me.
Yeah.
My concentration taxed me.
Yeah.
I have ADHD to begin with. It was even
Yeah.
worse.
Hey, everybody has ADHD, just for the record. There's been a number of studies now. I'm not the studies guy, but I can tell you the amount of studies that I've read
Yeah,
over the last several months about ADHD, man. everybody got some form of ADHD.
Yeah.
So you're not alone. All of us, you know.
It's like I'll be in a conversation with you or something like, what was my point of
Yeah,
that? But
yeah,
hey, you
yeah.
guys might be asking, what the hell are you guys talking about today? We just wanted to have a conversation with you guys and just catch up with Coach Jamie. He's been out, and I'm glad you're doing well. Christmas weekend, is next. Christmas is next week. This
Yeah.
is Christmas week. This is the weekend before Christmas. Great football games this week. The college playoffs are starting to take
Playoffs.
effect. That's going to be interesting. I'm looking forward to this.
I am. I am too. Some great games on the schedule, and I always believe, it's always great to be innovative and try new things, right? And the
Right.
playoff system, I think the bowl game system, in reference to us talking about college football, where you would have the Peach Bowl, you would have these respective bowls, the Fiesta Bowl, the Orange
Right.
Bowl, and I think as anything, it evolves, right? So we have to find ways to make things entertaining and meet the need of who we want to entertain. And
Yeah. Yeah.
particularly now, Scott, with all of the diff streaming services, I mean, it's a billion-trillion-dollar industry. So it makes sense to find ways to get people excited to want to participate. And
Right. Right.
I love sports, and I know you do as well. I
Oh,
love everything. I love hockey, I love lacrosse, basketball, football, baseball. Women's sports has taken off
oh.
dramatically, and that's
I,
exciting as well.
and
So
I got to give a shout out to University of Pittsburgh women's volleyball team. They lost yesterday to Louisville in the national championship. I think it was a
did they?
yeah, they lost. And this is the thing. They made it to the Final Four so many years in a row. And what a
Wow.
program. That it's weird because when University of Pittsburgh, and I moved down to Florida from Pittsburgh. We
Right.
have a lot of followers up there and fans out there from Pittsburgh, the Northeast. Um, they had their men's soccer team and the women's volleyball team ranked number one in the country, which the
Wow.
University of Pittsburgh, Steel Town,
Yeah.
and hard football, Tony Dorsett, Dan Marino,
Yeah.
Bill Frelick, all these guys, the
Yeah.
big rough and tough football players. And we have two, I don't want to call them finesse because volleyball is not a finesse sport. They beat the hell out of each other with them. But it's great to see two sports that are not, baseball, football, and hockey. Get some recognition up there at the University of Pittsburgh. And they've done a great job with this sports program. And hopefully the football team and with this transfer portal, it's just destroying college. But that's something that's another topic for a whole another day. But we just want to touch base, you guys. Hope everybody's having a great holiday season. Happy Hanukkah, Merry Christmas to everyone, and let's keep realize what the season's about. It's about loving your neighbors. I'm a disciple of Jesus, as is Coach Jamie. Love one another. Let's show a lot of love. And it's easy in this world we live in, a lot of turmoil and conflict, to have anger. And let's not let anger dictate it, especially during this season. Let's love dictate friendship, kindness, grace. And then we'll catch you. We'll catch you next week. We'll do a couple more sports topics. Who knows? If you guys have any comments, I hope you appreciate this episode. Coach, welcome back as
Thank you.
always. And remember, guys, we're here to be lions, not sheep. So be a lion among the sheep. You guys have a great weekend, and we'll catch you right before Christmas. We'll catch you on Christmas Eve. God bless you guys, and we'll see you next week.